They wanna snip the coke off the tip. We can chill, you can hang like a rope off the dick. Celebrate, ring up dough, bring some pole at this bitch. Fuck a burn, I'm just trying to get some face. Soon as I beat the face, bitch, I did the race.
What's going on, y'all? This is the Infinite Reps podcast. Welcome to episode number 5. Okay. Today we're going to deal with a work by 50 Cent. Yes, rapper 50 Cent and Robert Greene. Okay. It's called The 50th Law. If you guys are familiar with, well, first of all, if this is your first time watching, please subscribe to the channel and also follow us on IG. Okay, at ft.Trev. We're gonna dive into this work here by Robert Greene, and it's he did a collaboration with 50 Cent. And if you know the book, The 48 Laws of Power, that's a really popular book in the business community. Then maybe you know Robert Greene. He's also done some works, for example, Mastery. I really like his book on called Mastery. That's a really long read. And the 33 Strategies of War, again, the 48 Laws of Power, The Art of Seduction. So Robert Greene is actually pretty popular. And if you are familiar with any of his work, you know he uses a lot of historical examples to kind of, prove his point and get his message across. So if you like a good story, right? If you like a good story that'll make the information kind of more palatable to you, then Robert Greene's work is awesome. If you don't just want like somebody like spewing principles at you, he's really good at looking at historical examples and just pulling the gems out of those historical examples. This book, okay, The 50th Law, this one is dope because 50 Cent's story is dope. Okay, so he dives deep into 50 Cent's story, and he breaks down principles of power and influence. Okay. So I want to jump towards the end of the book to chapter 9, okay? Because again, this is the Infinite Reps podcast, and here we deal with the infinite expansion of the mind, all right? And part of a main premise of what we deal with is identifying self-defeating concepts and substituting them with positive concepts that are going to work for us in life, okay, to make us better people and to help us succeed. So, chapter 9 in this book, right, is about self-belief. Okay, it's called Push Beyond Your Limits, Self-Belief. Okay, and Robert Greene, he goes in. Okay, he's another really intense author, but he goes in. So he says your sense of who you are will determine your actions and what you end up getting in life. If you see your reach as limited, that you are mostly helpless in the face of so many difficulties, that it is best to keep your ambitions low, then you will receive little that you expect. Okay. Let me say it again. So if you're going to receive the little that you expect, if your ambitions are low, if you see your reach as limited, okay. He says, knowing this dynamic, you must train yourself for the opposite. You must ask for more, aim high, and believe that you are destined for something great. Okay? Your sense of self-worth comes from you alone, never the opinion of others. So he uses the word self-worth. Okay? So self-worth, self-esteem, these things are important to keep in mind. We'll delve deep into a little bit deeper into these concepts, but even 50 Cent, he stresses the importance of high self-esteem and expectation of winning as a big part of his success. Okay, so he says, with a rising confidence in your abilities, you will take risks that will increase your chances of success. People follow those who know where they are going, so they cultivate an air of certainty and boldness. Okay, so just jumping ahead. He starts off this chapter just like every other chapter, and he dives deep into 50 Cent's story. We're not going to go too deep into his story, but we just want to kind of pull out some key concepts that we can kind of think about. Hopefully something I say on here will kind of inspire you to go pick up the book yourself. It is a really good read. And on page 241, 50 Cent says this. So they'll break down, in his book, he breaks down, again, 50 Cent's story, and then he gives you what he calls a fearless approach, okay? And chapter 9's fearless approach, 50 Cent says this. He says, your opinion of yourself becomes your reality. You have all of these doubts, then no one will believe in you, and everything will go wrong. If you think the opposite will happen. It's that simple. Okay, so the key here is that your opinion of yourself becomes your reality. This reminds me of the when Cat Williams did his stand-up. He made the joke talking about how women they'll kind of blame their low self-esteem on their partner, right? They'll be like, oh, you ruined my self-esteem. He's like, no, it's your self-esteem. It's how you feel about yourself. He's joking there, but this just hits right on the money. Your opinion of yourself becomes your reality, okay? So when we talk about self-worth and self-esteem, it's you first, okay? So this comes down to the fact that you basically have to be your own biggest fan, okay? This is why self-love is so imperative. It may seem corny, but no one can really love you more than you love yourself, okay? Not your mom, your grandma, your children. It doesn't matter who it is. No one can love you more than you love yourself, okay? So the more that you love yourself, the more that you put yourself first, which is kind of counterintuitive to how, we're taught in society, but the more you put yourself first in a positive way, not an egotistical, narcissistic way, of course, in a healthy manner, the more you take care of yourself more, the more you can, the more people want to be around you, the more you'll be able to take care of others, okay? But if you have low self-esteem, again, you can only get negativity from that. And a huge law in this book is the law of self-belief, okay? So just kind of jumping into some more science that Robert Greene breaks down. Again, my job here with Infinite Reps is not to be your mentor or your teacher, is to maybe present some information that, these are basically just recommendations, okay? Good book recommendations that you can pick up and learn a lot from. But again, we like to deal with self-discovery, self-mastery, okay, self-esteem, because we know it's these self-defeating concepts that we get from a lot of other people that kind of hold us back. So first we shed those, substitute them with something positive. That way we can be positive people in society and affect change, okay? Not because we want to have more money than the next person and we want to one up the next man, but just because we love what we do, okay? So on page 47, Robert Greene says this. He says, understand, people will constantly attack you in life. One of their main weapons will be to instill in you doubts about yourself, doubts about your worth, your abilities, your potential. They will often disguise this as their objective opinion, but invariably it has a political purpose. They want to keep you down. You're continually prone to believe these opinions, particularly if your self-image is fragile, okay? So if you have a fragile self-image, you're particularly prone to believe these opinions, all right? In every moment of your life, right, you can defy and deny people this power. You can do so by maintaining a sense of purpose, okay? A high destiny you are fulfilling. From such a position, people's attacks do not harm you. They only make you angry and more determined. The higher you rise, the higher you raise this self-image, the fewer judgments and manipulations you will tolerate. This will translate into fewer obstacles in your path. So Robert Greene is basically breaking it down to us: the higher you think of yourself, the less self-defeating concepts that people really have about themselves, and they try to project them onto you, the less you'll be affected by those, okay? Because again, you have gone through you've gone through the process of self-acceptance, all right? Whatever stage of life you're at, you've gone through a process of self-acceptance, and you practice self-love, which is something that you must practice in order to get high self-esteem, okay? And when you have a good self-image, right, the higher you raise your self-image, the fewer that outside judgments, outside forces will manipulate, will have the power to manipulate you, okay? And then just kind of moving forward, just a little bit more science, right? We want to keep this episode pretty short, just a little bit more science, right? Robert Greene says, you are an individual with ideas and skills that make you unique, but people are constantly trying to fit you into narrow categories that make you more predictable and easier to manage. So people are constantly trying to fit you into narrow categories to make you more predictable and easily to manage. All right. So there's an interesting dichotomy here, because I agree with this concept, right? Definitely, that people like things that they control. They like what they understand. But another thing is, like, familiarity breeds contempt. If somebody already knows what you're about, what they're gonna do is just it's kind of people grow resentful towards that almost, right? They do fear change, but they also grow resentful towards just being so familiar with somebody and thinking they know everything about somebody. When someone opens up a new avenue of themselves, it'll inspire others, and people will love you for it. But if you're so down on yourself, you so much low self-esteem that you're not willing to take those risks, again, people will start to form contempt about your character, and it kind of expresses itself in many different ways. We're not going to get into all that, but again, that is an interesting dichotomy. He says, if you succumb to this pressure, then you may gain some social acceptance, right? But you will lose the unconventional parts of your character that are the source of your uniqueness and your power. Okay, so when you conform to the social pressures of society, you lose your uniqueness. You use your edge that makes you who you are, which sets you apart from everybody else, right? We've all heard this stuff before, but I've also heard Robert Anthony say that the opposite of bravery is not cowardice, it is conformity. Okay? The opposite of bravery is not cowardice. Okay? It is conformity. All right? So I would just leave you with that there. But again, I want to keep this pretty short. I don't want to, get too deep into this book. This is a great read if you are again, if you're into stories, right? Some great principles. And it's good because you can kind of put yourself in 50 Cent shoes. All right. Anybody that follows hip hop, you know all about 50 Cent. He's pretty popular in pop culture anyway. But he got shot 9 times. Like, really, really incredible story of coming back from adversity. But he also uses such examples as like JFK. He talks about like Queen Elizabeth. He talks about a ton of different historical examples in this book, and he pairs them with 50 Cent stories. And he's talking about laws of power, okay? And this is a really good read. But I did want to focus on the law of self-belief, okay? He also talks about Robert Greene. He breaks down like dealing with passive-aggressive people, different personalities, right? But I did want to focus on self, because everything does start with self. Okay, the mission is self-discovery, self-mastery, and again, this begins with self-belief and self-love. Give yourself something to believe in. Right, you got to take a little bit of risk to be able to have confidence that you'll be able to do, accomplish the next feat. Right, and that comes from taking risk in the first place. So you can apply these stories of other historical figures to your own life in the context of empowering yourself. All right, you can see how they navigated all these different social pressures, and again, the key is the application of knowledge. All right, and just to kind of leave you with this, I really like Robert Greene, because when you look at these different stories, right, it gives you a chance to be a person of wisdom. Right, wisdom is when you can look at someone else's situation and learn the lesson from their experience without actually having to take the bumps and the bruises and the L's, right, that they had to take. So you can look at them, you can peep the game, you can be like, okay, this is the lesson, I understand it, right, and I don't even have to go through the pain that they went through. Okay, that is a person of wisdom, right? You're still gonna go through your own pain yourself, right? But a person of wisdom can minimize that, right? And make lessons of others' experiences actually effective in their own lives. All right. So this is why I like all these historical examples that Robert Greene uses, and especially 50 Cent's story is a really good story itself. But I would just want to challenge the audience here to practice self-love, right? One of the ways that I practice self-love is I listen to good music, right? Love Yours by J. Cole, all right? There's no such thing as a life that's better than yours. You know, he's breaking it down. He's going hard on that track, okay? So Love Yours by J. Cole, right? Love Yourself by Mary J. Blige and Kanye West, right? That Cudi album, Kids See Ghosts, that Cudi album is fire, right? The Underachievers album is that they dropped this year or last year is fire. After the Rain, okay? They're dropping some really applicable gems, right? But again, it comes down to self-love, right? So, you know, the challenge is just to listen to some positive vibrations, right? Listen to some positive music, and when you read stuff like this, cross-reference it with the things that you listen to every day, right? Because this is like books like these that we deal with on Infinite Reps are meant for personal growth, right? Positivity, and it's meant to combat the negativity that we receive from the entertainment, right? So you have to cross-reference, because there's good music out there, there's good positive messages out there, even from some of the most negative entertainers, right? Or what you consider, they might have one song that's super, super positive, right? So cross-reference what you hear, right, with what you read and what you the knowledge that you attain, and then use the power of the music. Use the power of the music to get you in the feeling of love, right? Because self-love is a feeling, right? And how long can you maintain that feeling with all these different negative pressures coming at you throughout the day, like other people's expectations? How can you keep those feelings? That music is a great way to revitalize and get a good pressure, you know, remind yourself that, you know, self-love is there, right? When you got nothing else, you can cut on, you know, some timeless music, timeless songs, right? But they have to be a certain vibration to raise that frequency. So again, we deal with the infinite expansion of the mind, right? Always understand that there is no coasting in life. You're either getting better, you're getting worse. The only way you can coast is downhill, okay? Apply the knowledge. Knowledge is not power, okay? Just reading a book is not power, right? Hopefully, you know, you got a gem from what you heard so far, but just having that gem is not power, okay? When you go and buy the book and you read it, you're getting more potential power, but we're talking about potential energy versus kinetic energy, okay? Potential energy it's only potential. Kinetic is when it's moving, okay? So you get the power when you move from potential to kinetic energy, and you are applying the knowledge that you're getting, okay? So that's a long-winded way of saying that it is not knowledge that is power, it is the application of knowledge that is power, okay? So let's get our knowledge up, let's form a foundation with different, you know, with different positive material, and then let's act upon it, okay? Let's not just have the knowledge and use it to debate or whatever we use knowledge for these days. But again, yeah, this is the Infinite Reps podcast, Infinite Expansion of Mind. Killer Trev 12 is the Instagram. Email book recommendations to infiniterepsinfo